What is going on, all of our PGA DFS fans? Thanks for joining us on the Fantasy Golf Bag podcast. This is the Players Championship, and while it may not be a major championship or qualified as one, certainly around the industry it is. You can tell just from the coverage on TV. You can turn on your TV right now and get Players coverage. That doesn't happen every week, nor does Millionaire Makers over on DraftKings 2 this week. And Drew and I, we're going to help you try and win that here this week. And great time to bring you on, Drew. We had another fantastic elevated event last week. I've been keeping up with your Twitter, and it does seem that you're going to be sad to see these change next year, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't think it's the right path for the PGA Tour. They're trying to spin it that all the other events are still going to go on as the norm, but it's literally like two different tours at this point. You're going to have the elevated tour, and then you're going to have the PGA Tour below that. So, I don't love it. We'll see how it does from a viewership. I'd be curious to see if there's a few events that kind of go in the same week, like let's just use the Honda as an example that went off during, like the API finish was pretty good. Let's just say the Genesis versus the Honda, and maybe people tune into the Honda more than the Genesis. So we'll see if any of that comes true. And they're also nixing the match play, which really stinks. Match play is a pretty fun event.
Yeah, I mean, it's the limited field thing anyway. So
exactly, and there's no cut. You're literally it's 30% cut. I mean, like,
I think you know what I think they've messed up with the match play. Listen,
the group
64 guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mirror the NCAA. They should have left it. Who cares if guys show up for one day? You gotta get paid. You gotta get paid. That's the bottom line. Move it back to one day. Justin Thomas just announced he's not even going to match play this year. It's because it's too much golf for these guys.
It is,
they end up having to win. They gotta play so much, and then there's the Masters right around the corner after that. So, yeah. Speaking.
Why would you need to when you got a no cut coming up somewhere and you're going to be guaranteed 100,000 probably?
Right. Right, exactly. So now we'll start off with a main question, and it kind of goes to this a lot of golf, so to speak, in this short amount of time. How worried are you about Jordan Spieth's back injury? Saw little waves on it today. Don't know if you've read into it at all. Back injuries are obviously nerve-wracking, but, he doesn't seem overly worried, but definitely seemed to bother him on the golf course on Sunday.
Yeah, I didn't read much into it. I did see like his tee shot on 16. I think he kind of picked up the tee gingerly and limped off a little bit. I didn't make much of it. You could probably fill me in on what your interpretation was. But I mean, some of these guys maybe make a bad swing or something happens on the back nine and the rough stick. So I mean, he had a few eventful holes on Sunday. It could tweak you a little bit, and then you're just trying to get home. So. I'm not too concerned, but you could fill me in on what I missed.
Yeah, I will say I thought it was funny, Dan Hicks, when they had the picture of the Velocicoaster over at Universal, and he was like, "This is like Jordan Spieth's round." I actually thought that was kind of funny. Yeah. I'll take your place for this. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Worry, I'm not overly concerned yet, but back injuries are not a 1 out of 10. It's golf; they have to be a 5 out of 10, no matter what, because if it's a herniated or bulging disc, that can pop up at any time. I'm speaking obviously from experience here, unfortunately, but again, just something worth monitoring going forward. Okay, now let's turn our attention to the players, if you're okay with that. If not, you can interrupt me, but I would say this is probably the crown jewel of Peter Dyer. At least he thinks so. Got other couple of great golf courses. What is your favorite Peter Dyer? Is it this one or somewhere else?
That's the first I've heard him called by Peter. But we'll go with that.
Well, yeah, maybe I should say Pete. I don't know why. I got literally I have 3 friends.
If you're really on a first day basis with him, maybe Peter's the way to go. That's the first I think I've ever heard that in my entire life. But I'm sure that's his name, so I'm not gonna put too much fun at that. I honestly don't know all of his courses on the top of my head. I mean, this one's pretty good. But what's funny is like the history of this golf course being like literally bought for $1. And it was all swampland, kind of like Disney World. So I know you have some familiarity with Walt Disney's process in Orlando area, but like it's literally was swampland. They bought it for nothing. They started to build it up. Like the the island green number 17 was an accident. Like, it wasn't even intentional. It just like, hey, we ran out of dirt. What should we do now? Like, we don't have enough dirt to fill in a hole. They're like, just make it water. And he's like, yeah. His wife, like his actual wife, came up with this idea, like at dinner, and they put it on a napkin. Like, I remember the story. Amazing. And like, it's kind of funny. Like, the actual idea of the golf course is great. So like, it's called stadium for an actual reason. Yep. So like, all the fairways up the edges of the fairways are raised up so that people can view holes like a stadium. So it's actually like a really cool concept, and the course is very, very difficult. So I would say it's fun, but I'd be lying. I think it's just very difficult. But it's a great track. There's a lot of holes that are really tough that don't get enough praise. Like the finishing holes obviously get a lot, but like number 8's got to be like the toughest par 3 on the PGA Tour.
Oh yeah.
Like when they have it back, it's like 240, 245. And it's a shoot. Like, you don't even realize, like, the tee box is, you threw like a canopy of trees. And there's a couple other tee shots that are like that. And it's a very it's a unique golf course because it's not long, but you actually have to play it back quite a bit on a lot of holes. So It makes it long for a second shot golf course. So it's a very interesting course. And maybe that's why, just like there is some quirkiness, is probably why you see a lot of guys that like miss the cut and then they win the next year, or they win and then they miss the cut 3 straight years.
Yep.
Even whether, aside from last year, it's just a very volatile golf course. It's fun. It's a good golf course. It's very tough. I've played a few times. I've had the pleasure of playing it a couple times, and the easiest hole, in my opinion, was 17. I'll give you a hot take. 17 was like an easy break compared to the rest of the golf course.
Yeah, let me ask you though, would it be different with like 40K fans?
Yes, it would be. And on Sunday or any other day, and you're trying not to make a triple. Yes, it would be different. But like if you're just standing there on like, I think I played on a Friday morning or a Saturday morning. It's a huge green for a pitching wedge. It's a huge green for a pitching wedge. Now it wasn't baked out like they get it and stuff like that. And obviously wind makes it tough. But when you play 15, 16, 18's coming. 17's like a cakewalk. It's literally like, oh, finally I have a wedge, and it's a pretty big green for a wedge. So 18's is a beast. It's just, they're very good holes. It's a tough golf course.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, do you off the top of your head, just putting you on the spot, is there a better finishing stretch of 3 holes on the PGA Tour than the stadium course?
I don't think so. Not for the ups and downs that can occur.
Right. Yeah, it's just
because like 16, you can make a double, you can make an eagle.
Yeah.
17, you can make a birdie, or you can make a triple. Or higher. I mean, we saw Sean O'Haire make an 11 or something the one year he had a chance to win in like 2007 or whatever that was, a long time ago. And then 18 is just like literally the worst finishing hole ever.
It's so hard.
Like we know who designed it. I shouldn't say whoever designed it. It's just water down the left, no rough on the left. It's just straight water. And then on the right, you have this thick rough, and then it starts doglegging into trees. So it's like, it's a brute. And I cannot imagine if you have a lead going to that hole. Like, you could lay back and you got like 220 in. That's like your bailout.
That's a trash on the live here, Drew. But imagine not having to play 18 as your finishing hole coming down a stretch to win a golf tournament.
Oh,
it's not the same. It's just
it changes the whole tournament for sure.
It does. All right. Don't need to go off on a tangent of that. This golf course, we've talked about it a lot, and it is fantastic. One of the other things that it's great on is that it has a very, very good distribution of approach shots. Not one area is really heavily favored over the other. Maybe a couple of more wedges than normal, but they're not easy wedges. So what I did, and I think you're going to agree with me here, is I looked at greens and weighted greens in regulation, or greens in regulation gained from the FGB mixed model. And the reason why I did that is because one of the things about this course is the trickiness of missing the green. So we want to look at guys that are hitting tons of greens. Some names in the 5 tournament sample. Chris Kirk obviously played great through this Florida swing. Maybe a little bit of a bad weekend last weekend. Scotty Scheffler putting it together. Joseph Bramlett, a name that's low priced, hitting a lot of greens. Kevin Yu, John Rahm, Hayden Buckley, Xander Schauffele. So what do you make of that?
Past winner Ricky Fowler.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Past winner Ricky Fowler. He's starting to show some signs with his irons a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex Smalley shot like 8 over last week. What do you make of something like that?
Sometimes it's just a course. I think that was the first time he's played it, right? So, I mean, it's not an easy golf course in general. I don't put too much weight into it. We saw, I'll use an example, a very immediate example would be Will Gordon on Saturday to Sunday. He shoots 81, and then, so I don't put a lot of weight into that. Obviously, statistically, it's going to weigh him down, but I'm not too concerned with like, oh well, he just missed the cut because he shot 80. I'm not going to go to that guy. It's a completely different week.
Right. I'm having just a little bit of trouble with your audio right now, Drew. It's kind of like talking like speeding up. Can you hear me okay? Oh. Drew will come back on in a second, so just cut down. Yeah, hey, better. I can hear you.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not.
You want to take it from the?
Yeah, I will. Sorry about that. I'm not too concerned with with 1 week, and I was probably talking fast, so my apologies. The immediate example that I used from last week was like Will Gordon. Will Gordon shot 81 or 82 on Saturday, and then shot 67, I think, on I think he shot 67 or 69 on Sunday.
Shot 3 under. Yeah, shot 69, 3 under on Sunday. One of the best rounds of the day after 84 on Saturday. So and then that pots up there on that greens and regulation weighted percentage.
Yeah, so like from a weighted green and regulation number. So the way we do it, it's obviously weighted. So it's if you play Pebble Beach and you're beating the field, which is at a low percentage, you hit 60% of greens and you're beating the field. Or you go to, I'll just use Kapalua because it's always easy. You hit 80% of the greens, you might be under the field.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I think it's really important there.
So weighted is very, very key in that regard. And that's why I love, people used to joke about, the traditional stats, but when you weight them, they make a lot more sense. Obviously, just traditionally, it doesn't make sense. But when you start weighing them, and I will point out too, our weighting driving accuracy, and I don't know if I've talked to you about this specifically, but just to remind people at home that use the FGB model, the weighting driving accuracy is the exact same concept in terms of if, a hole is, Pebble Beach, they're hitting a 260 off the tee. It's weighted driving accuracy for each of those holes, cumulative for the course. So in other words, again, Kapalua, you could hit 80% of fairways and you're underneath the field, and you go to, but it's a very driver heavy golf course. You go to Pebble Beach and it's a very iron heavy golf course. You're comparing apples to apples. So all those weighted driving accuracy numbers are actually per hole cumulative for the course, which is a really nice feature. And I think that's going to be a really important stat this week. We've heard people joke about driving accuracy being important, but they're not hitting a lot of drivers. So you can't really compare John Rahm's accuracy with his driver last weekend to this week because he's not going to hit it, but maybe 5 or 6 times. So
let me just say one thing before we get off that. If you're looking at the FGB mix model and you are sorting with the driving accuracy, just make sure you look at the sample size. Like, so Jerry Kelly's number 1, but he's only played in 2 rounds at the Sony Open at Waialae, and I think he might have hit every fairway that week. So it gives him a 26% and gives him the top rating in that category. Just understand you can take him out if you want to get rid of that weighting. But some other names that I think are important there: Colin Morikawa, Russell Henley, Aaron Rai. Mika Morikawa's miscut last week didn't look great. So do you want to go back to him here? Struggles in the wind, and we had wind last week. So
I know. I didn't listen to you, and I played him at one and done. That didn't hurt, or that didn't work out very well. So luckily, I can't play him at one and done this week. But I'm interested in the win narrative going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Couple of other names maybe that I want to discuss, both in the driving accuracy one and some plays this week, maybe some cheaper plays. Justin Suh continues to perform well in the Florida swing. Certainly seems like he's more comfortable on Bermuda putting, but just finding a groove on the PGA Tour. And he's hitting about 8% more fairways, and he's got a nice combination of hitting about 6% more greens. So nice combo there for a guy that's 6,600.
Yeah, and again, I'll just use an example like using the FGB model. It's really nice when you download it to Excel, you can just start sorting things like above average, and you can condense your player pool pretty quickly. Obviously, you can expand it after that. But like we talk about, like the weighted driving distance, straight driving accuracy, greens and regulation, you can just start filtering above average. You can throw approach and stuff like that too. And you can start getting down to a really small, condensed player pool that you want to focus on. Like just by doing that with tee to green,
absolutely,
I'm at like 22 22 players. So it's very handy on a week like this because I do think, to your point, I like the traditional stats. Weighted green and regulation's huge. And again, that also incorporates all the different yardages. So like this week, like you said, I think the approach distances are spread out quite a bit. The Super Proc shows us it's like a quarter of a shot for 25% of shots are from 125 to 150, 25% are from 150 to 175, and then the same for 175 to 200. So it's really spread out from 100 yards to 200 yards. And that weighted green regulation just weighs every single course, no matter the distances, how often they're hitting greens, and that's really important this week.
For sure. Great points there. All right, let's talk about some other specific plays here that I kind of highlighted. First, we can kind of talk about the mid-range guys that from the betting side and DFS side that I'm interested in that I want to throw at you, and then we'll talk about a couple of cores, and then we'll get on out of here. We like to try and keep this under 30 minutes, and for the players, got a lot going on, so of course we want to give you the much time. So a couple of guys in the mid-range. Sahith Theegala, he continues to perform well. I cannot bet against this guy right now. He may end up being a top 30 player in the world, maybe top 25. Honestly, Drew, I'm really impressed with his game. Corey Connors faded a little bit over the weekend, but it seems like his game is coming around. You already mentioned Ricky Fowler. Keith Mitchell, I'm standing behind as well. And then Keegan Bradley, I never get right. So there's 5 names in that mid 7K range, all that I like, all that I also like their betting numbers from top 5 all the way through top 40. So who do you like there and who do you dislike? I can rename them too if you need me.
No, I'm pretty much there with you on all of them. I think they all have good history, and good history here is more like upside. And I think I've talked about that. Yeah, that's a good point.
Top 10 upside. Yeah, they all have miscuts. Everybody has miscuts.
Exactly. There's no such thing as good history in terms of like, hey, he always finishes top 20 or top 10 here. Yep. There's going to be scars. So, yeah, Keegan Bradley obviously playing well. Ricky Fowler coming into form. Brian Harmon hurt me a lot last week. He really hurt me. I'm brokenhearted over it. But this seems like a better course for him this week. So we'll see if I end up going there. Corey Connors is just so cheap. And when you talk about a ball striking golf course, if the winning score is going to be, low teens, that's a golf course you can get to that type of scoring. Keith Mitchell plays really well, plays well in Bermuda. So I'm good there. And you didn't really mention Hoagie. Hoagie started off so hot, and I was looking at him last week, and I think he started off the week good. I don't know where he finished, but I might start going back to Hoagie as his price starts to drop because his irons were so good through the beginning of that West Coast swing. People jump off of them, and his price decreases, and it might be a good opportunity on a course like this where driving's not, driving's very important, but like the traditional driving stats of off the tee, doesn't really correlate as well here as it does on all the other courses. So I do like that opportunity for grabbing a low-owned Tom Hoagie too.
Me too. Let's go up into the, let's say, 9 and 8K range. Justin Thomas showed a nice little comeback. He had a bad start on Thursday morning, played well in the conditions on Friday, the toughest of the conditions. Got it to 6 under at one point on Saturday, and this then just kind of fell apart a little bit. But I believe his game is trending. I actually think he may even pick up a win in the next 2 weeks. He's scheduled to play Valspar next week. He's played very good there. So, honestly, I'm a buyer of Thomas for the next 2 weeks at the very minimum. At $9,400 this week, I think it's a great price. Victor Hovland, if he doesn't throw the ball into the bunker and then take 7 shots to get out of it, 7, he could have won that tournament last week. So I think he's a great price. And Cam Young is another one that fits into this category. And then the guy that I was kind of getting exasperated about is Tom Kim, because I don't know when to jump off, but his price is really reasonable. And on a course that's only 7,200 yards, this guy's going to hit more fairways and more greens than most people. So I have a hard time getting off of him.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is one of the golf courses that does set up well for him. I saw a back and forth with Pat Mayo last week, and I do think he's one of the shorter hitters on tour for sure.
He is.
I mean, maybe it's really shrunken as far as gaps, but it's still like on the lower end. So I think this course would fit him better. Yep. I think Fitzpatrick's really interesting. He was nursing like a neck injury. Yeah. His price is still in the 8Ks.
Right?
And he had a T9 here a couple years ago. So I think Fitzpatrick, this sets up well for him. statistically speaking, he has some bad rounds in there, so he's not going to pop. So maybe that's an advantage. I know he's right there by your boy Spieth. But I think there's just a lot of value. And when these stronger fields like this, kind of like the majors, it makes it really tough to pay up for a McIlroy and Rahm without, you could get a ton of win equity. Finau, Sungjae Im, Hovland, Zalatoris, Spieth, just getting a ton of mid-range guys and it really rounds out your lineup. So we've seen a lot of million makers won that way, where they didn't have a single 10K player. They had a couple, maybe 1 or 2 9s, and then they just really balanced it out.
Yep. I'm going to give you the names below Thomas to the 8K range. Any that you don't like here, any that you're going to be fading. So Tony Finau, Sungjae Im, Willie Z, Matsuyama, Hatton, Lowry, Tommy. We talked about Tommy Kim, so that kind of covers it. J-Day. Again, all these guys are playing decent. This is a tough one for me. My ownership is relatively spread because I think pricing is actually really fair this week. It probably means that I have lower ownership on Rahm, McIlroy, Scheffler, and Schauffele, to be completely honest with you.
That's fair. I think it's really tough for me to X anybody here indefinitely. I guess Matsuyama probably my least favorite.
Okay.
Cameron Young, I don't know if has he had any history here? Let me see.
Probably
one miscut.
Yeah,
so he would be on the lower end just because I don't think distance is a huge advantage for him. I think Shane Lowry is really interesting. If we look back at last week, he lost like 5 strokes approaching on a single round. He shot 80 on Sunday or on Saturday. I just love him on this type of golf course. So
hole in one at 17 last year, was it? That was a sight.
So he has a T13 last year. He was obviously in the good wave, I think. I just presume that. And an 8th place the year before. So I really like him to come back after last week. I mean, losing 5 strokes in 1 round on approach. There's a lot of I think he hit 1 out of bounds on a par 5. I think he might have hit another shot out of bounds. So yeah, bounce back for Shane Lowry this week. I'll call that one.
All right, $2,200 milli maker and a $25 milli maker on DraftKings. In the $25, we're probably not mixing any guys above 8K. But in the $2,200, let's just say that we're going to have one lineup this week. Who are you starting that lineup with? First 2 guys.
Over 9K? Or
Anyone. Just the first 2 clicks you're putting in your lineup. Yep.
Probably going to be Connors. I think he's plenty cheap enough.
7,400. Now, chalky-ish, but
that's fine. That's fine. We've talked about that before. Yep. Yeah, you can play some chalk as long as you get a lower owned guy elsewhere. I don't know. I probably say Sungjae. I think at 9K, Sungjae would probably be my preference over JT at a little bit higher price or Finau.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, first 2 clicks are Hovland, Tom Kim. I think Hovland's been trending. Now, let me just check something.
Well, yeah.
His Sunday round was the first round he shot over par since I got to go back so far to find a round under par. It's unbelievable. Essentially, Tournament Champion shot 72, but that's 1 under actually. That the par there is 73. So yeah, it was his first time all year shooting above par in a PGA Tour event. That's too consistent for me to pass up at 8,900.
Yeah, I mean, he had. I don't know if it was again last year was kind of weird, but we know they're going to be scrambling a bit here, and I just don't know about his short game holding up. Yeah, that's the only reason I wouldn't start him. I love his game. I think he's cheap. He's extremely talented. He's played well on courses similar to this, like Pebble Beach, obviously. Yep. But that's the only hesitation I have would be starting him because of that. If it just goes a little bit south, like we saw last week on Sunday, he's going to struggle a little bit, or at least maybe not keep pace. So, I still like him, but that's the reason I have hesitation.
All right, so yours looks like Sungjae Connors. We're going to pick 4 guys each. That's what we're allowed to do.
Okay.
I'm going with Hovland and Kim. My third guy is going to be Thigala. I think that he fits what I'm trying to do in this build. I'm not really trying to get many guys below 7,500. I think he's playing so good, and I'm comfortable going back to him. So, how about you? Where are you heading with this third one?
Jason Day.
Okay,
Jason Day. Yeah, there's a little bit of that. When's it going to fall out? But last week would have been
good.
Last week would have been the week it fell out, and it didn't. So, AK Jason Day for me.
Yep, for me, I'm going to the same kind of thing to Ricky Fowler. It's $500 cheaper. I want to back Fowler as a comeback story. He's trending in the right direction in the OWGR. If he has another couple good starts, we could see him at Augusta, and I think everybody wants to see him at Augusta again. So I got Ricky 7,500. That leaves me 17.9 left. I could go all the way up and get one of those 10K guys. Likely, I'm probably going to fall in the Cantlay Thomas range there for my next guy and go into the low 8s. Maybe even a Jason Day or a Shane Lowry mixed in there. So I think that should give most everybody some pretty good indications of where we're going and guys that we like this week. But let's just turn our attention as we get on out of here to pick the winners. But before we do, let's give a couple of bets that you like from a value perspective. One for me that stuck out was Colin Morikawa trending toward the 30-1. When he's won, he's hit at that number or around it. So my question to you is, should we blindly bet him? We do think he can make a comeback here this week, right?
Yeah. At 30-1, though, it still doesn't speak to me. Maybe I'm just hurt from last week.
Yeah.
There's still names that are higher than him that I don't mind going to. But yeah, I mean, I just wish I would have saw a little bit more last week. So
yeah, I agree. I'm there with you. It just didn't look good all the way around. He had a real chance to get to the cut too, and it just didn't make it.
And it's a short drive to Sawgrass, so it's not like we're going back to the West Coast or something I can wrap my head around. So
yep.
We'll see.
Any values that you do like? Didn't like Morikawa at 20, 28, or 31. I kind of agree with you. Values you do like, though?
To be honest, Hideki keeps dropping. He's
Yeah.
almost 100-1. I would be remiss if I didn't suggest grabbing Hideki before he gets a win out of nowhere.
Oh, man.
It just, I mean, any of these guys can pop on any given week, and he's dropped way further than he deserves to have, in my opinion. So I think Hideki's the guy that stands out the most to me.
In terms of value perspective?
Of value, yeah, from an outright perspective, because he has as much win equity as anyone. He might not be playing as well as anyone, but he can turn it around.
Yep, for sure. All right, well, last week my pick to win was Colin Morikawa, and he ended up missing the cut. So I go from picking the winner to picking a guy that missed the cut. Lovely. So I'll go first this week. I am going to take Victor Hovland. I've talked about him a couple of times. I think he hits enough greens where we get rid of the around the green problems. I think he holds on Sunday. I think he goes into Sunday with like a 3-shot lead, something like that, and it comes down to 18 as he coughs it up throughout the round, kind of like you said, but I got him holding on for it. So Victor Hovland is my pick to win the 2023 Players Championship. Drew, what say you?
So I'm going to go with Homa. I think Homa got some reps in on Bermuda. I like Homa's chances this week. It sounds like Vegas does too. So.
Oh my God, I got to be honest. If I try to emulate any swing when I go to play, it is Homa right now. I love that little
tempo is great.
The tempo is just so pure to watch. I absolutely love it. So, all right, the fantasy golf world is just booming right now. DraftKings came out with the Rainmakers game. I've had a ton of fun with that over the first couple of days, and I'm going to be hooking all of you up with some amazing content coming out that I am surely going to help people turn a profit in that game. Also, maybe if you're new to the game, I've got some content coming out to help you. If you're brand new, want to learn about it, want to see why I'm so excited about it, we will have all that for you on Fantasy Golf Bag coming up. Of course, also don't forget, there's also best ball as well, $100K for first place to the majors only over on Underdog. If you haven't signed up over on Underdog, do so now. Use promo code GolfBag and get up to $100 on your first deposit match. So really great time to be a fantasy golf fan. And of course, join us on Fantasy Golf Bag. If you haven't already, we do a ton of free content. We have free accounts. And of course, we have our premium accounts that start at $4.99 a week. So until next week, everybody, it is our home event. Well, yeah, Drew, you're pretty darn close to it, so I'll say that. It is in my family's backyard. It is the Valspar Championship. So until then, everybody, good luck. Somebody take down the Millionaire Maker this week, and we will see you on the other side. Cheers.